Tẹ́yìn lọ́rùn. Good morning. How are you today? And good evening for those of you in the US and North America. You're listening to Fumi Adams from way back. Good evening, liar. Okay, those are my North American people. Good evening. Mr. Ola Alani, the musician, how are you? Chini, how you doing? Shen, Otiya Werini Yabao. Okay. Good morning. How are you today? My name is Praise Forward. Welcome to Pfthinks from Praise Forward International Studio, Lagos, Nigeria. How are you doing today? Thank you so much for joining me once again. You know, I never take it for granted every time you join this show. Right? Today is 83rd day, which means we've been doing this show for 83 days. And I'm so super excited to have come your way in this 83 days, and we're still going to 365 days. Okay, so we're on for 1 year. Okay, and well, when I started, I wasn't sure if I'll be able to sustain this, but we've done 83 days, and so 1 day at a time, and I'm getting excited about it. Thank you so much for your feedback and all you're saying that this has been doing for you. Yesterday, we started a new series on the science of parenting a WHIZKID, right? And what I wanted to do with this model, with this particular series, is to begin to teach parents how to effectively script a child for global relevance, especially for parents of African descent. One of the things we've not been able to do successfully as Africans is to raise children who can form a community or who can go with a tribal agenda and dominate their world working together. What we've done is we've created a culture of silos where what we promote is individualism as against collective agendas. So even our educational system is structured in a way that children are not assessed collectively, they are assessed as individuals. So the way we're structured is such that we do not care what happens to others, provided your own children are fine. And the way even our religion is structured is not structured from the standpoint of a we or us. Is structured from the standpoint of I, me, myself, and I, government of the self, by the self, and for the self, which is why you see some of our songs, A meaning number one, E one in number two, which means I am the first to testify to the goodness of the Lord. I do not care if you ever testify. You know, even our testimonies, our messages is powered by the quest for personal prosperity at the expense of community prosperity. But if you check all the culture, the Indians, the Chinese, the Japanese, the Jews, the Arabs, they think of us, they think of we, they think of community prosperity. So when you see the way their nations are structured, you will see everywhere paved, right? You will not see the community of the rich paved alone, or the rich man's house, big, and the poor man's house, bad. You will see what they have, the emphasis on infrastructure, which has defined, the way the world is rated. But in developing countries, we think of me, myself, and I, so a rich man can have 100 cars. He doesn't care if the other people work barefooted. That's the way we've been raised. So when our parents say things like they were a disciplined generation, I always say to them that a disciplined generation will produce a disciplined environment. That's something I'll focus on tomorrow, because domestication looks like discipline. A lot of our parents were domesticated, and they domesticated us. They were not disciplined, because the word discipline is the word discipleship, which does not start with caning. It starts with modeling and instruction. So consistently we brag that in our days things were very much more disciplined. No, our days was military era. We had no choice. So we were not disciplined. We only obeyed because of the power of the gun. So today, I am going to be introducing you to the arrival of Gen Z, or the people we call GENZERS. Because if you are a parent in this age and time, if you are raising any child that is less than 23 or less than 25, you are raising a GENZER. Unfortunately, while people don't even still understand GENZERS, we now have the AA generation, right? Which is the generation after Gen Z. But I'm going to focus on Gen Z today because a lot of parents, this is where they're having issues. Yesterday, I asked a question, 3 questions actually. Who taught you about parenting? Number 2, in whose culture were you taught? And number 3, what has been the report card of the culture that taught you? Now, many of you have gotten back to me to say that the culture that taught you could not pass the test of question 3, which means the report card of the culture that taught you about parenting is not inspiring. The culture that taught you about parenting has not produced global icons in science and technology. Many of you said you have produced global icons in arts and entertainment, but you see, you will know that arts and entertainment is basically side attraction, right? Except you are taught on how to use arts and entertainment to influence human behavior, right? But when it comes to science and the nitty-gritty of engineering, you realize that our culture lacks precision, which is the language of engineering. So, for example, if you want to perform an experiment and you are from Nigeria, you are Igbo, you are Hausa. If I say to you, mix burgundy with lilac in the experimental lab, you'd realize that the Igbo has no word for burgundy, the Yoruba people have no word for lilac. Now, when you cannot, when you don't have words to express a particular combination, you realize that your research work cannot be perfect. So what has happened over time is that our language is not evolved, right? Which is why in many nations of the world, the courses subjects like physics, chemistry is taught in local dialect. In Germany, it's taught in German. In China is taught in Mandarin. In Nigeria, it's taught in English, right? Because we do not have words to express certain things, and maybe because we're also colonized. Now, so when your culture cannot produce the desired result, then you need to begin to create a new culture, which is my challenge to a lot of African parents, that we need to begin to create a tribal ideology powered from your family so that your children can have something to hold on to. If your culture does not look inspiring, your children are going to reject that culture, especially the GENZERS. That is why you realize that a lot of Nigerian and African kids, they have African skin, but they have American mind or the British mind. Now, Generation Z, we often flow in the direction of a culture with profound result that is responsible for what they can interface with and use. So if it's like a culture that is producing innovation, they don't have solidarity to your culture. GENZERS don't have solidarity to any culture. The culture that can produce result, verifiable with verifiable data, is a culture that they subscribe to. Now, I say that you cannot raise the 21st generation with the mentality of an 18th century parent, because every generation must be an improvement on the previous generation, which is why children are basically not human beings or things to be built in your image. They are actually people to be unfolded, which means they're like onion. The more you peel, the more you reveal. If you are willing to peel and understand and give them the demands of their generation, they will rebel against you and break away from you. Now, we've gone through Generation X, Y. Now is Generation Z. Generation X were people born from 1965 to 1978. That was my generation. Generation Y were people born from 1979 to 1995, right? Generation Z are people born from 1996 to 2020, right? Now you need to understand that Generation Z is totally different from Generation Y and Generation X. When we were growing up, we dare not question what our parents say. We dare not talk back at them. Generation Z is not like that. Generation Z is not going to swallow things because you said them or because any pastor said them. They want to swallow what has proofs. They want to swallow what has result. They want to swallow what they can verify, what passes the test of common sense. So Generation Z are smart, they are savvy, they are a globally minded force. Generation Z is immersed in a highly sophisticated media and computer environment and will be more internet savvy and experts than their Generation Y foreigners. What this simply means is Generation Z don't use computers. They don't use gadgets. They were born into gadgets. Generation Y and X are using gadgets. Generation Z is defined born into gadgets. They have been using gadgets from the womb. So that's why when they handle your phone, you are amazed at how they're able to use what they're doing there. You are amazed at what they're able to do with your phone. What you cannot even figure out, they can figure it out. Now, which is why they hack into your password. They know how to get what they want. Generation Z is incredibly diverse. Not only do they embrace diversity, they expect it and see it as a norm. So many of the things you see as right and wrong, Generation Z does not dwell in the realm of right and wrong. So when you are teaching in your home that LGBT is a no-no, Generation Z has friends who are LGBT and they love their friends the way they are. They begin to ask you, what is wrong with this person, right? There's nothing wrong. He's a human being. It's nice. And you are saying, no, 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 that's not what the Bible says. They do not care what your Bible says, right? They care about the fact that the person they're dealing with is a human being. Yes, the person may have a different sexual orientation. They don't see anything wrong with that. That is their generation. Generation Z, they approach problem as a team and see everyone as equals. So when you see your children call you, you guys, you guys, you guys, that may upset you because how dare you call your parents you guys? But that's their generation. They see everyone as equal. They approach problem as a team. They know how to call themselves to say, oh, let us collaborate to take down this mountain. Generation Z will not sit back and watch. They expect honesty and diversity and to be active participants from the next family holiday to which brand of pasta they eat. So you cannot just slap things on them and say, in this house, this is what we're going to eat. They want to be part of that decision making. So if you are in an organization or you are in a religious setup, you cannot plan program for GENZERS without involving them. They want to be part of everything you're doing. They want to be part of decision making. As a matter of fact, what I say to parents is that for the first time, we have a generation that will question everything and want to be part of everything you're doing. You cannot plan program for children without the children. Generation Z is making that demand right now. And a lot of parents are not finding it funny. For Generation Z, it's all about collaboration, and they love digital videos on platforms like YouTube and Facebook more than TV and cinemas. So if you are building a business around cinemas, it's not for Generation Z, right? They love virtual reality. They love everything must be on their Android. They want to be able to have access as and not ownership, right? They hardly build deep relationship because their life is spent online. So you don't see them build deeper relationship, which is one of the areas of concerns and challenge that we need to work on, especially in our quest to help them build solid relationship, especially marriage. Now, they think Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook Live, TikTok, celebrity YouTubers, they are hardly not suitable for the workplace because of their low attention span. Now, one of the things you need to understand about Gen Z is that unlike the other generation, they have their slang, they have their social markers, iconic cars, iconic tours, music device, and leadership style. Now, when it comes to slang, Generation Z, we have a new generation after them called Generation Alpha, Generation AA, but I'll focus on GENZERS for the purpose of this discussion, right? So while Generation Y talks about blings, Generation X talks about dude, A's, for Generation Z, you hear them talk about, they have the emoji of fire. They talk about GOAT, I'm a GOAT, which means greatest of all time, right? So when they say they are GOATs, as a parent, you are wondering, how can you call yourself GOATs, right? It simply means greatest of all time. They love to use slangs like slay, right? Yes, queen, right? Those are their slangs. When it comes to social markers, right? The builders generation is defined by World War II. The baby boomers is defined by moon landing. The Generation X is defined by stock market crash. Generation Y is defined by September 11. For Generation Z is GFC. That's what defines them. When it comes to the cars they use, right? While Generation X is Holden Commodore, Generation Y is Toyota Prius. Generation Z is defined by Tesla Model X, right? That's the car that will define their generation. For generation after them, Generation Alpha, their car is going to be defined by autonomous vehicle. I love this particular model of research done by Mark Crandall, right? It broke it down in a way that I love. When it comes to iconic toys, Generation Y is defined by BMX bike. Generation Z is defined by scooter, right? Folding scooter. So when you see them, they're folding scooter, all around town. That is what has defined their generation. When it comes to music device, Generation Y uses iPod, and Generation X uses Walkman. Generation Z is Spotify, while Generation Alpha is smart speakers, right? When it comes to leadership style, Generation Y is guiding, supportive, interactive, and peers. Generation Z, they love empowering leadership, collaborators, multimodal forums, and they love digitals. Okay, right? So you need to understand that to parent a Generation Z cannot be the way you were raised. Now, when it comes to Generation Z, you need to understand a few things, and your response has got to be key, right? Their identity is not defined in their quest for truth, because they're very open-minded and love to express individual truth. Generation Z do not believe that there is only one truth. They believe that there are diversities of truth, and you better understand that. So as a parent, you need to manage perspectives through the power of questioning. What do you think? Why do you think what you think? Don't you think this way? Why don't you look at this perspective, right? Those must be your words. You cannot say, you know what? This is the only way. There's no other way to God. That if you say that, they're going to argue you and shred your argument and ask you questions that you could not ask when you were being raised. Now, it doesn't mean they're not spiritual. It simply means that they will embrace what is proven and what is truth and what has result that they can see, not what you pump into their brain. So their identity is not defined in their quest for truth. As a matter of fact, the biggest challenge we have in raising a Generation Z is their identity. Now, number two, they are radically inclusive and connecting to different truths. They understand everyone's style, even though they have their style. So they are more accommodating than our generation. Our generation is defined by you are Igbo, you are Hausa, you are Yoruba, you are this, you are that. For Generation Z, they are not like that. If Generation Z wants to marry, a Muslim, even though he's a Christian, he doesn't care what you feel. A Generation, Z wants to relate with other people of different religion, that to believe that I'm a Christian, you're a Muslim, is fine. Let's just be friends, right? They do not care about all the walls that are separated humanity, right? So they are radically inclusive and connecting to different truths. So you can see them do yoga, you can see them do guided meditation, you can see them still go to church, and you can see them function during Muslim holiday. Now, so what you need to do as a parent is to blood them into an intentional tribal ideology that is built on love, equality, and fairness, but you need to leave room for the respect of others. So if you are their parents, you can't be talking down other people's religion or talking down other people's way of life. No, you need to get them to understand that, you see, you need to hold them to your beliefs while you allow other people hold to their beliefs, right? You need to collaborate with them and deploy the power of love. So if your tribal agenda is not built on love, equality, and fairness, you cannot effectively parent a Generation Z, because they don't believe what you believe. Next one, fewer confrontations and more dialogue. They seek to understand different truths. So as a parent, you need to change must come from dialogue. You can't slap our truth and wish other people's truth away. So you can't slap your truth on Generation Z. No. You need to deploy dialogue. So when I'm talking to my son and he's talking, and we're having a discussion, and it gets into argument, right? And he will say to me, that that's not the way I say it. You may see it differently, and I may see it differently, and both of us can be correct. And he actually is right? So they love fewer confrontations, more of dialogue. So if you are a parent who loves to give rules and regulation, you may not work and function effectively with Generation Z, because that's not who they are. I mean, I have one of my friends, I went to his house, and I was watching, and his son was talking about, when I'm rich, I'm going to build brands, I'm going to buy this, I'm going to buy that car, I'm going to buy this fast car. I mean, I was looking at the boy's mouth, right? And I was looking at the figures he was calling, and I couldn't reconcile it. Guess what? I had to engage him in a dialogue. So you cannot be confrontational and insist this is your way. I am your parent. This is what our parents did to us is not going to work with them. Now, they are realistically pragmatic, looking for the truth behind all things, and not given to stuff that can't be proven. So, as a parent, you need to show clear-cut result and enjoy their quest for research and ability to question all things. So, we say that there are 2 G's you must know: God and Google. For Generation Z, they will Google you out. If you teach what doesn't make sense, they're going to search you out. If you quote what doesn't make sense, they're going to expose you. We understood, touch not my anointed. GENZERS do not understand that. GENZERS will tell you, but the man is lying. Why is he lying? They are very blunt to a fault, and they are not intimidated. So you need to understand the children you are dealing with. Now, the birth of the new normal is here. Loud and bold is the new right for their generation. Loud and bold is the new right for their generation. So whatever you are pushing, if it is not loud and bold, it cannot resonate with them, which is why even some of the fundamental beliefs are shifting. So in our generation, we preach that a virgin is a lady whose hymen is intact. But in their generation, this started from Generation Y, actually has moved to Generation Z right now. Several Generation X, Y, and Z with intact hymen are performing blowjob even in Lagos for 25,000 per client, right? So the question is, are they still virgin? Hymen is intact. Some of them are performing anal sex. Some of them are performing oral sex. So the question now is, who is a virgin? Is a virgin still someone whose hymen is intact, even if the person has performed blowjob for 100 men? Is that person still a virgin? These are questions people of faith and spiritual leaders need to begin to consider. When we were younger, we were told that fornication is when penis enters vagina. But in their generation, they are dealing with phone sex, where they're dealing with sexting, cyber sex, porn, lap sex, and penis is not entering vagina. It doesn't involve penetration. Question is, what is fornication in their generation? So in our generation, we say to curb drug abuse, let us ban the importation of tramadol. So you can still see the way our leaders are thinking, especially in Africa. Their own is ban, 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 ban. But this generation, right, they can get high on tea bags, on Sockaway, on Tom Tom, and Lacasera or whatever drink, right? So how do you deal? Now, for our generation, our parents will tell you, Muslim cannot relate with Christian, LGBT is a no-no, and all those who don't belong to our religion are going to hell. For Generation Z, their sexual, they will tell you, but their sexuality has not affected their competence. And why would God send other religion to hell when he created them and claims he's a God of love? They are asking valid questions that parents cannot answer. But here is the challenge. Generation Z is in search of who they truly are in the midst of all sorts of contradictory information that is easily accessible online, which often makes them come across as a misbehaving generation. So parents are beating them, challenging them, questioning them. Parents are threatening them. I mean, for those of them abroad, I'm going to send you to Nigeria. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. It does not work with them. As a matter of fact, when they say to you, I'm going to commit suicide, they mean it. Don't play around it, because they have games that is suicidal. They have all kinds of things available. They are reading all sorts online. You need to empathize with their generation. In our generation, we didn't have the benefit of online stuff. We have no access to the internet. Our phone, we didn't have a phone. Our phone was the analog phone that you have to press, or you have to ring, or have to dial. Their own generation, they already have phones in their hand. They have access to the internet, which means they have access to information. They are being bombarded by all sorts. People will tell them, your sexuality does not define your identity, doing all kinds of madness, pardon the use of my word, online, right? So they don't even know what is true, what is wrong, right? And everything there is questioning and challenging one thing or the other, right? So they are actually in search of their identity in the midst of all sorts of contradictory information. So you need to empathize with them to understand that their concerns are real, because their identity is the major challenge that they have to contend with. Now, what I say to parents is this: every misbehavior is either a non-discovery of self or a non-remembrance of self. That when you don't understand who you are, you will misbehave. When you forget who you are, you will misbehave. But you have a generation that is not even sure of who they are, because information says otherwise, parents says otherwise. Parents don't even have time for them. So they have to depend on what the school says, on what curriculum says, on what friends says, on what Google says, on what Snapchat says. They measure their identity by TikTok, and they want to do all kinds of things. When we understand this, we will do all we can to ensure a child's identity and esteem is not compromised. Now, what do you need to do in the midst of all of this? I'm going to continue this discussion tomorrow, and I'll be telling you the arrival of domestication and how we were domesticated while our parents thought they disciplined us. Now, one of the things you need to understand as parents, because it might be overwhelming knowing the reality now of the GENZERS or Generation Z. Number one, you need to see GENZERS as myth buster, sent to move you from myth to reality and effectiveness. Many of the things many of us believes are not true. I'll say that again. Your beliefs is not always the truth. Your beliefs is what you have held to be true. There was a generation that believed that women were only good for kitchen and making babies, and people accepted it as true. Even women believed it as true. But a new generation came to say, no, women are feminine expression of humanity, and they are much more than kitchen. As a matter of fact, they can choose not to give birth, and they can choose not to cook, right? And now that has been accepted. So Generation Z has been sent to troubleshoot everything and bust every myth. So don't fight and don't try to hold on to what has not empowered you, right? You need to see them as people sent to move you from myth to reality and effectiveness. Many of you lost your childhood to your parents, right? They were dysfunctional in the way they raised you. So they messed you up, messed up your brain, and you couldn't question. Generation Z has come to question everything you have believed over the years. And you do not have to fight it. You get into research and you realize that many of the things you have held on to is not totally correct. So when you see it that way, you will see them as collaborators, as partners in progress, and not as threat to your leadership. Because the way many of us see it as, they have come to threaten your leadership, they've come to challenge your authority. I did not challenge my father. Why should you challenge me? You did not challenge your father because you didn't know better, and your father did not know better. You should know better right now, because that generation is here. Number two, you need to create a family system that is based on tribal ideology. I mentioned that earlier, but it must be built on empathy and not judgment while helping them master their identity. If your culture is not built on love, equality, and fairness, it will not stand with Generation Z. I'm going to be teaching you in this series on how to build a tribal ideology and how to build an effective culture and how to create a domestic educational system which can power the ideology of GENZERS, right, through the power of curriculum. I'll teach you that at some point, right? Now, you need to create a family system. Now, every family must be system-based, right? Which is why if you want to understand fully, there's a body of knowledge on family systems engineering. It's on my e-learning platform, school.iampriceforward.com. You can go there and start your journey there, right? So, but you need to understand that if your family is not systems based, right, you are likely going to lose your GENZERS. So you need to create a family system that is based on tribal ideology, but it must be built on empathy and not judgment. What it means is you cannot say our family is the only family going to heaven, other families are going to hellfire. That will not work with GENZERS, because GENZERS believe in fairness, equality, right, and love, and they believe in empathy and not judgment. They make excuses for others, and you need to incorporate and accommodate that in your training, right? But you need to help them master their identity. Number three. Now, before I go to number three, their identity is what is most threatened, right? Which is why your culture on your family and your ideology must be strong enough, and it must be documented and built on a system. Number three, you need to become their student and sincerely collaborate with them to lead you while you become their coach, balancing their perspective. Now, unlike our generation where our parents stood in front, with GENZERS, you need to stand by the sideline. So what you do is you guide, right, and ensure that they don't tilt towards another extreme. So you need to become their student, right, before becoming their teacher. As a matter of fact, they must not see you as their teacher. They must see you as their student, right? But you must become a coach. When they feel they have something to teach you, they are most vulnerable, and they will feel, oh, this is part of us. They must feel that you are a part of them before you can influence them. You cannot influence what you persecute. You will only influence what you are willing to accept, which is why you need to develop a large heart, right, to accommodate their idiosyncrasy. Pretend as if you understand it, even if you don't understand it, and try to understand and incorporate it into your world. What that means is you must become their coach. They must see you as their favorite coach that they can talk to about everything and anything. The moment GENZERS feel this is an adult I can talk to, trust me, they will teach you all kinds of things, because that's the generation that can sell you without you knowing if you don't pay attention to what they are saying. Now, number 4, enjoy their need for access as against possession. Generation Z don't want access. So if you're a parent, you're thinking, I'm going to leave 10 houses, I'm going to leave 15 houses. It doesn't freak them at all. I am working hard to leave an inheritance for you. It doesn't freak Generation Z. They want access. They don't want possession. So they don't want to own big TV, flat screen, and big car. No, they want access. Can I use a car when I want to use cars? Which is why Uber appeals to them, right? Can I watch what I want to watch on when I want to watch it? So if you are doing a program that is not subscription based, which is why Netflix will fly with them, TikTok will fly with them. You can't say to them by 7 to 9, that's when you must watch this program. No, can I watch it when I want to watch it? And can I watch it on the go? Right? I don't need to buy a big TV. Can I watch it as I move around? And can I subscribe to it and watch it later? Can I record it? Those are the things you need to incorporate if you are designing a program or a project or a product and service for Generation Z. They enjoy access as against possession. Our generation is possession driven. So we buy flat screen, we buy DSTV, we buy cable, we buy Sky, we buy all kinds. It doesn't freak them at all, right? Which is why you see them, many of you complain that you are always on your phone, you are always on your phone. That is where their life is. To reach them, you need to be in that their downloadables, you need to be in that in the space of that their handheld, and it must be subscription based. To say, can I give freemium on my way to doing a premium? You need to give free taster to sell any product to them, right? So they are not just going to say, oh, we are going to buy it out of emotion. No, they want to buy, they want access as against possession. So they don't talk about I own. No. Do you have access to internet? Do you have access to Netflix? Do you have access to Uber? Do you have access to this particular app? They want access. You need to understand that. Finally, you need to be open-minded to allow them hear their opinion. It is better they air with you first than for them to become breaking news, right? They have a lot of things going on in their mind. So if you are raising a GENZER, you will wonder, they will say some things and you wonder, didn't you think before you made this statement? That's the way their heart is working. So let them give expression to whatever they are saying with you. Let them be open-minded to all hear their opinion around you, right? That's where you can balance their perspective. Like I said, you can't slap your truth on them. You need to use questions and stories to bypass conscious resistance and show them that, don't you think this? What do you think? Right? They will always accept what made sense. And that is the communication style parents need to deploy in raising a Generation Z. So if you are not open-minded as a parent, trust me, you're going to lose them. In fact, one of the things that will happen in the nearest future is that a lot of GENZERs can go to court and sever their relationship with their parents and ask for asylum in another person's family, right? This is one of the realities of our days and our time. So you cannot force and impose. You need to calm down and begin to become their favorite coach and get into their world. Let them lead you, let them teach you while you guide them and you coach them into the truth, into what you now want them to believe. You need to bypass conscious resistance and you need to do it consistently. The style of parenting is totally going to change because they are going to be challenged when they go for master's degree or when they go for, in fact, the school system is going to totally change. They're going to be challenged by the curriculum that the whole world is designing, which is why your family needs to design an intentional family curriculum. There's a process to designing that. I hope I'm able to teach it along this series, right? But you need to understand that you need to be open-minded, right? When you see what contradicts what you believe in the life of your GENZERs, don't judge it. Beam your searchlight with a mindset of understanding what they are thinking, right? If you go with that approach, you will get the best out of them. Approach whatever they are doing from a standpoint of curiosity, not from a standpoint of attack, right? Or acceptance. Curiosity. Seek to know more. Ask questions from them. Now, at this juncture, I have what we call a script writing script a winning child in 21 days. So we have created a bundle for you in the month of July that you can have access to. That's a bundle that ordinarily costs about $181 thereabout. It's about 82,000 naira, right? If you buy it individually, right? But a lot of parents have been saying to us, we have this problem, we have this challenge. So we have created what we call the WHIZKID combo pack, which contains 21 days out of the box parenting program, which means you teach what to do with your child every day for 21 days in winning back your child, in understanding your child, and in scripting your child for success. It contains handling an erring child program. It contains child power sexuality education pack for teenagers and for young people and for children. It contains 3 books, Super Kids, and several other books in there. There's a free masterclass for parents in there, and there's a free, for those of you who get that pack, I'm going to have a personal session with your GENZERS by I think last Sunday of this month or something like that. That gives you free access, right? This is a combo that costs over 80,000 if you have to buy them individually, but for the purpose of this month, you can get them for about 36,000 naira, or $80 actually, as against $181 that we used to sell them. So you can get in there. Go to iampraiseforward.com/WHIZKID. WHIZKID is WHIZKID, and subscribe to that and get that. It's all yours for 1 year. And the books are yours. You can download them and what have you, but please do not share them. Okay. So, and your child will be registered for the masterclass with GENZERS that I'm going to be having with them later this month, right? So you can go there and order for that combo. It will help you, right? But you need to calm down. There's nothing to worry about. Every generation comes with its challenges. GENZERS have their own challenge, but you are better equipped to handle them because you have seen Generation X, you have seen Generation Y. This is a new generation. Embrace them. Get excited about it. Don't fight this generation. You are not going to win that fight. You cannot win it, right? So embrace it. Position yourself as their favorite coach, and you will win with them. I love what Jesaliah said. Jesaliah says, children are not things to be molded, but people to be unfolded. Children are not things to be molded, but people to be unfolded. So your children have to be unfolded, which is why you need to get that scripting a child combo program, which is the WHIZKID program challenge. It will help you. You need to unfold your children. If you don't understand the traits and tendency of a child, the psychology of the developmental stages in the life of a child, you will damage your child thinking that you are building them. Many of us still convince ourselves that our parents built us, when the opportunity cost of the pain and the damage they did to us, we are still grappling with the effect. And that is what shows up in insecurity, in low self-esteem, in our inability to fight evil, embrace evil when we hate evil, bow down and praise evil. But when evil leaves, we criticize evil. That is symptoms of a generation that was domesticated, but was thinking, you were thinking that you were disciplined. So the fact that you could get a job, you could go to work, you don't steal, you clap for that. But what about your ability to think beyond your job and innovate for an entire generation? Those were the things that was compromised. Tomorrow, I'll be sharing with you 20 different reasons, 20 different differences between domestication and discipline. You don't want to miss that session, 3 a.m. With me tomorrow. I'll be right back by tomorrow, God's willing. Keep loving, keep living, and know that I care so much about you. So go there right now, bit of force to get that combo pack. It only lasts for the month of July. By August, it reverts back to $181. You can get it for $80 this month, right? Or equivalent of about 36,000 instead of 82,000 thereabout. Go get it. And tomorrow we'll be back. Trust me, I am just here to assist and ensure that you raise global icons. Our children must speak with the enemies of the gate, but they need to be built up to be able to think, outthink the enemy, outdo the enemy, out-deliver the enemy, and lead their generation. That is my passion, and that is what we need to do together. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you have enjoyed this. Please play this over and over again. If you go on my YouTube page, you will have it. Play it over and over again and understand it. Develop a large heart, because you are the coach for Generation Z. They didn't produce themselves. We produce them, and we are the ones who can tutor and guide them appropriately without compromising their sense of curiosity. You are a savior. I'm a savior. Together, we will solve the problems of our world. I celebrate you. Thank you so much. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye bye.